Everybody, first time in 2020, first time of the year, I get to say welcome to the Awesemo.com PGA show live before lock. I am Ben Razza here with Jason Roslin, same crew as last year. We are ready to go. Took us a little longer for the first show, but we are ready to rock. We've got some new things coming to you this year. Super excited to get the Tournament of Champions underway. How goes it, my friend? What's going on?
Yeah, we didn't wait long to do our first golf show of the year, did we? I mean,
No.
we got it off right away, um, which is nice. It always falls. This tournament always falls during the first of the year. So, for those of you that are looking for a New Year's Eve trip, this is one I recommend you put on your bucket list to go to. It's a fun week out there, and it sets up for a really interesting golf tournament. There's only 34 golfers, so we're going to do our best to cover the whole hour. But thankfully, we've got Fantasy Draft back on board, I believe. Ben, if you want to tell everybody about that.
We certainly do. And yeah, they're a sponsor of the show. We really appreciate it. And they run a really interesting golf format. We've talked about that. They've got some things a little different over there. Competition not as strong, so it's a little softer. Good way to build the bankroll. You get some overlay as well. And we know that they're running, as they always say, rake free. And that adds up quickly. I know at the end of the year, a lot of people do their year in review. You see, man, some of that money, a lot of it does go towards the rake, of course. And Fantasy Draft is one way to get around that. So if you use the promo code Awesemo, free week, sign up there, check it out. We'd love to have you aboard and supporting our sponsor. But you mentioned it right off the top. I'm excited golf's back. Don't get me wrong. This is 34 golfers non-cut though. This is not exactly Augusta.
No, by any stretch. Although Augusta last year, I think, only had 50 more golfers than
Fair
this,
point. Yeah.
which is crazy to think it was the lowest we've ever seen. But so what we'll do here is we'll just go a little bit into the course analysis. We're going to take a lot of questions tonight, and then hopefully you guys, everybody sees, I've got Fantasy Cruncher and my model up on the third screen. We're going to make that hopefully a pretty prevalent thing of our show. We're going to have full segments on type of group builds, lineup construction, and the alike. So hopefully going to build that in a lot. And of course, when we talk about individual players, I'll pull up my model and showcase what we have to offer on that side as well. So let's talk a little bit about TPC, not TPC, sorry. It's the Plantation course at Kapalua. There's two courses there, the Bay course and the Plantation. They play the Plantation for the tournament. It sets up as an absolute bomber's paradise. It is the easiest fairways to hit all year. So does that take guys like Ches Reavie right out of it for you? And we'll bounce around a little bit as we talk about the course, and then we'll actually break down every player. But with these fairways so easy to hit, I mean, do you even look at it in your stat model this week?
So it's something, it doesn't take guys. These are all winners, even though we've got some debatable guys where you wonder how they did win. But it's not a death sentence, but at the same time, they are starting behind the eight ball. This is a course, and I would think you would agree, where driving distance truly puts you at an advantage. We've seen guys be able to just really lay back and rip it. It's not to say if you don't do that, you can't go low, you can't dial it in with the irons and stuff. But man, does it help to be able to really get it down there. You're not going to be punished off the tee.
No, you're not. And they did add, I would say overall, it played 7,500 yards prior, and that's without talking about elevation by any stretch. They added about 300 yards to about 6 different holes, so about on average about 50 yards per hole. A couple of the front ones on the front side, the second hole went from like a 380 to a 430 par 4. So again, that's just going to help driving distance because it's not like they brought the fairways in or anything like that. So obviously, just making the course longer, pushing it to that 7,700 yard mark, really just going to help out these long drivers even more. They also did more extensive renovations to the greens. They made the smaller ones bigger and they made the bigger ones smaller. So I think that may throw off the players a little bit that have come here. I think it may reduce that edge that we have seen with seasoned vets here at this tournament or at this course, rather than first timers. First timers have really struggled here because there's a lot of nuances. We saw 2 years ago, Dustin Johnson almost got a hole in one on that par 4, right? It helps to know. Now, granted, we don't expect him to go out and try that and do that again, but it does help to know that driving it down that right-hand side on third, or I believe it's 12, on 12 gives you that speed slot, I'll call it, on that right-hand side. And it does help to know that Martin Trainer can see it on TV, but until he sees it in person, he's not going to know exactly how to get it done.
He doesn't need to worry about par 4 hole-in-ones, let me tell you. But other than that, the other thing that you meant, you're talking about the course, it's a par 73, which is very unique. And I do think, having seen it will help. Now, of course, you can look at Rahm and say, he took it apart in his first year, but he's also Rahm. A lot of the first time winners, they may only win once. It's not to say that they couldn't get back here another year, but we have to correlate it to the talent. I think it's a really interesting, even though it's 34 guys, and of course we're going to dive into all of them. I do think it's very interesting that we got a handful of I want to say the crop of guys that a lot of people thought were going to win. We didn't get all of them. We don't have Hovland. We don't have Scheffler, but we've got the Niemans, the Wolfs. Corey Connors is here. Yep. Cameron Champ, just get out of here. We got JT Poston.
Cameron Champ is here. Cameron Champ is absolutely
He's going to drive it too far, apparently.
480 yards. I got him driving one this week.
Yeah, so sick. But it is very cool, I think, to see part of that group take a step forward, and they're going to be a staple of the mid-range when we really get into it.
Yeah, they sure are. A couple more notes on the course and the weather. Looks like we're going to get some typical wind out here, 15 to 20 miles per hour. There is no edge, though, because they go off in twosomes, and there's only 34 golfers. So 17 tee times, 8 minutes or 10 minutes of tee time. We're talking about a 2-hour differential. It's just not big enough to find an edge there. Plus, it didn't look like it was spiking at any point in the day. They start at 9 o'clock every day. It looks like maybe Saturday they might be starting earlier because the Golf Channel coverage 6 to 10 p.m. on the East Coast every single day, except for Saturday. It's like it's only 6 to 8 p.m. So that's really weird. I do know that there's a big party that they all go to on Saturday night. I think it's the Pro-Am party. I don't know why it's Saturday. In any case, that is the update on how you can catch it. Primetime golf to start off the year. Pretty cool. And the views, if you've read my content this week, the views will be awesome. They will be some of the best we see all year. So let's start. What's going on?
I was going to say, when's this lock? This lock's in the afternoon tomorrow, right?
Yeah, 3 p.m. Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. It's a 3 p.m. lock because it's a 6-hour difference. So they start at 9 a.m. Hawaii time. It's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard. So good to know. So we'll go right into talking about the players now. And right off the top, I had a decision in my biggest dollar lineup. Obviously, if I could get Jon Rahm, it means I could have gotten Justin Thomas. I clicked Jon Rahm's name. In reading your article, it sounds like you might have clicked Justin Thomas's name. It's just really tough to stack them both. And I feel like this isn't going to be the only time this year where we want one of these two guys and we can only get one.
Totally agree on all fronts. And I think both of us, I feel pretty comfortable saying I could make a really great case for Rahm, and I think you could counter with a really great case for JT and vice versa. It's a flip of a coin. These guys have the win equity here. I feel pretty comfortable. I am not playing a ton of cash. I think that's a little tough on a 34-man. But if you are, I think you have to use one of these two. You can debate the merits of trying to fade them and go to DJ, who in a lot of years would actually be up top here. Yep. But for me, it was just a personal preference. I saw JT at the President's Cup pretty recently. And honestly, I weighed that a little just because I don't know where a lot of these guys have been.
Yeah, it just seems like Rahm and Thomas are set to take that next step. I know Thomas has already won a major, but he had that back end of the season last year where he was hurt a little bit from that time at the Honda Classic where he tried to pull off that really silly shot against the trees on hole 10. It ended up hurting his wrist, and it hurt him for a little while. I think that Rahm and Thomas are going to ascend to 1 and 2 in the world this year. I believe that Brooks and DJ will fall back a little bit. Plus, Rahm just keeps winning. It's just what he does. It's pretty insane. Obviously, for their game, they both drive the ball so far. They're a little erratic off the tee at times, so that's why we've seen them both succeed here. We've seen Rahm come in 8th and 2nd in his 2 tries, and we've seen Thomas win a couple of years ago. Now, Thomas's starts are a little bit more roller coaster. Couple in the mid-20s and then a couple of good ones, including the win. Are you waiting course history at all? Because we did talk about it does seem like first-timers struggle here.
So it's something that I do look to. You have to – there's a couple of things I think you have to be careful with. One, this is like some of the FedEx Cup events where you look and you're like, oh, man, this guy's coming top 10 4 straight years. Well, there's only 34 guys.
Yeah.
So you're coming in the top 20 unless you're a wounded animal here. So let's not get crazy. A lot of guys.
I got the course history up on the second side of the screen, and sure enough, there's Dustin Johnson up at top, 4 straight top 10s.
Yeah,
which sounds good, but there's only 34 golfers.
Seriously. So you want to be careful with that. The other thing is sample size. Yes, guys like DJ, they're here every year, but most people aren't. You could have long routes. They could be a different golfer. You look at Gary Woodland and people like that. It may be a long career, but some of these guys have evolved, and the Webb Simpsons of the world. So I think you want to be careful with that. Having said that, I do want to know who's played here before, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jason, just an FYI, you are not sharing right now.
I'm not?
No, we're getting like a spinning dial.
It looks kind of cool, though. It's a little mysterioso.
Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. Let me see if I can fix that. I don't know why that happened there. Will Josh behind the screen, can I restart that call?
Yep.
On the other side?
Yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah, let me do that. All right. Sorry, guys. I apologize. I don't know what happened on my share screen, but we'll pull that back up. Ben, while I do that, Xander Schauffele is sandwiched in between the top 2 guys and Dustin Johnson. Is that making it hard for you to find to get there or not?
So he's always a tough decision for me because I'll be honest, I may have a blind spot with, I don't classify him as in that group, and he has shown that maybe he does belong there. Now, he is also the defending champ. I think he gets you're paying the tax for what I don't think is a huge bump. I don't think he's more likely to win this year because he won last year. He's a good player. So for me, it's just a pretty steep opportunity cost. When you can tell me I can get $600 more to JT or $500 less to DJ, you want to take even a bigger discount, Cantlay. I play Ricky because I'm me. I don't know if I'm going to get to a ton of Xander. Do you have interest?
Xander, he's been a guy that I do like to go to. As you said, it seems like he's getting close to maybe being talked about in that breath. But yeah, I'm having a little trouble playing him over DJ, even though DJ has not looked great. It's a tough call for me because of the price. I got to be honest. Last year when he won here, he was part of my core. I thought he was a great play, but he was also $8,200. He wasn't 10-6, right? So it's a pretty big difference. I actually have, once we get the share screen back up, which I think we're probably pretty close to, I actually have the screenshot of the winning lineup from last year.
All good. Just mute that Zoom call or that Slack call.
Okay.
Sounded like you were in a submarine. It was kind of wild, but that's
sorry about that. Yep. Now we got it. We got it muted there. Sorry about that again, guys. I apologize.
It's the first tournament of the year. You got to, and believe me, you should have seen me. If we started this stream 5 to 10 minutes earlier, chat, you would have a lot of questions. I was losing my mind finishing up.
One of our regulars, our DK guy, he actually called it. He knew exactly what was going on. Looking at that game. So, all right, since we're back on the share screen, is that right?
Yes, sir. All
right. So here's that lineup. I just wanted to show you talking about it. Xander came in at 8,200 plus he was mid projected owned at 21% owned. This year, it's going to be the total opposite. He's going to be 10-6 and he's probably going to be 30% owned. So I don't think it's as good of a spot. Plus, in a one-off, I would still right now, I would take Jon Rahm and Justin Thomas over Xander. That's what I would do. However, if I've got room for 2 of them because I've fallen in love with Sung Kang, let's say, which I have, then you could possibly get 2 of those guys. But again, I'm not going there with the bulk of my lineups. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're talking about 34 guys where trying to be unique is almost more important than who you play, especially up top. So if you're going to tell me you should be shooting for that top prize, that you're building with Xander up top because you're going solely for the leverage and ownership, you're going for the discount, I get that. For me, I still think that the win equity of these other guys is significant enough where I'm going to use them. I'll do my best to be different as we work down.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so DJ, we kind of already talked about, he seems exceedingly cheap here. Does that bring up the ownership, do you think, in him? Or do you think people are still a little nervous to play him since we haven't seen him a lot?
It's amazing how fast, I don't want to say how fast, but, he was hurt. He had a bad end of the year. And I don't know if people are jamming him. Whereas if you saw this in a different part of 2019, this would be like one of the most egregious misprices ever. He's still very expensive, don't get me wrong, but he was always at the top. Now he's not. The question I really have, and I'm just playing around right now, is you say you start JT DJ, you still have about 7,000 and change per golfer on a site like DraftKings. That's doable. I think a lot of people are going to try to use DJ as their second man in a pretty aggressive build, especially because it's a non-cut.
And at 10.1, it does allow you to do that. And that's why, like you said, if this is any other time frame in the last 3 years even, there's no way DJ is 10.1 priced below Xander, maybe below Rahm in a given event, maybe below JT in a given event, but we've never seen him this cheap, especially at this tournament where he's really dominated. All right, so the next golfer I wrote up earlier in the week in the Against the Grain article, we've talked about the 4 studs. Patrick Cantlay came in 15th here 2 years ago when I was out there, so not a great finish. And it makes it tougher to get him in the lineup because DJ's right there. And if DJ's number 2, there's no way you're getting Cantlay in as number 3.
No chance. It's an either or, and you're looking also at people are going to want to play Gary Woodland. Yep. Ricky's just Ricky. He always is going to garner. Everyone's going to garner ownership. I think we all know that. Yep. But Cantlay is someone. I mean, he has no weakness to the game. The putter, of course, comes and goes, but that's like a lot of players' approach game on fire. I actually like that in his one appearance here, it wasn't great. I think that's a decent setup. I don't mind really how they play. It's more that they've seen the course. So a 15th to me, it's better than like a second because I think the overvalued ownership would actually be a net negative.
So with that, my one prediction was that he gets lost in translation comparatively. So I've got him coming in somewhere just shy of 20%. Again, like we said, everyone's going to get ownership here. As I brought up that screenshot of the winning lineup last year, you only saw one guy at 12%, Patton Kazir, who was, one of the cheaper guys, and he still got about 13%. So when I say Cantlay is going to go under owned, it's relative to this field, which I think it puts him under 20. And as we saw, like Xander won last year at 21%. Do you think that Cantlay could be in a good spot to go overweight and know likely that he goes under owned in probably that big $8 tournament?
I plan to get over on him. I think that I always say this, and maybe it's not true, but when we have limited things, when it's a limited field or there's limited strokes gain data, new start of the year, I think people keep it very simple, and I get that, but it leads to easier ownership projections in the sense that people look at the course history. People don't really have recent form, so they're going to have to weigh course history almost twice as important. They see Cantlay, it doesn't scream anything. They see Woodland, runner-up last year, similar price, boom. Gary, Bomber, boom. Gary. Yes, I like Woodland quite a bit, but Cantlay is someone I feel very strongly can compete. Played in the President's Cup. Again, I think that's good. Not that Woodland didn't, but these top-end American guys that we've seen somewhat recently, I don't even mind trying to be creative and pairing 2 of the 3 and starting like that.
Yeah, Ricky he was okay at the Hero his first start back since, getting married and being sick, being married. 9,500, we saw him come out at the President's Cup and give, his team a jolt a little bit with Justin Thomas in that 3rd round. Obviously, elite course history, as I'll pull that back up. He's got some of the best. Again, he's one of the better players, so that's no stretch. 4th, 5th, and 6th in his 3 starts here. Do you think that warrants the 9,500, or do you think course history is the only reason here? Because it seems like Gary Woodland, on the whole, we've seen in the top 10 or even in the top 5 much more recently than we've seen Fowler.
Definitely. I mean, Fowler is someone I do think is getting somewhat of a bump because of the course history. There's a name recognition aspect. I'm not going to try to dig into how the site's priced. I don't think that's too important, but it is important to try to interpret what the public is going to do with each individual name and how they're going to evaluate it, whether it's course history, strokes gained, or whatnot. The guy right below them, and I mean, we can do this because it's only 34 guys.
Yeah. Patrick
Reed coming off another, the egregious incident after egregious incident. What do you make of him? Him and Paul Casey, Morikawa, I don't see these guys' names nearly as much as I do that 9K range with Cantlay and the gang.
Yeah, I don't either. And on my screen here, if you guys aren't familiar, I have my model up, and part of my model allows you to click the players in the field, and it'll generate on the right hand side once you've downloaded it to Excel all of their strokes gain data from last year, just to see. So with Patrick Reed, one thing that we know you got to be good here is you have to putt. You can't putt well, and you can't putt poorly and score in the mid 20s, mid 20 unders, and that's what it's going to be somewhere 25 or 24 under is probably the winning score. We know that Patrick Reed caught fire with his putter towards the end of the season last year. Seemed like it was going pretty good at the President's Cup. Not great. He played, for all intents and purposes, he played very poorly against Webb. So here's what I'm a little nervous about with Reed. We saw last year here, he came in 25th. But what I'm concerned about is we had all of these new bombers. We had a bunch of good players that drive it way further than Reed. Whereas when he won back in 2015, DJ was the only guy in the field that probably drove it over 350 yards. We're going to have 8 or 9 guys hit drives over 350 this week. So I think he's at a little bit of a disadvantage. Whereas if he was priced down with Brendan Todd at 8,100, maybe I could get him in as my third guy. But that 900, that 900 to Todd, or even that 400 to Morikawa, it definitely matters a lot. It's the difference between Jim Herman and Sung Kang, or if you're fond of Graham McDowell, it's Graham McDowell over 6,300. Who's that guy at 6,300?
How is Jim Herman in this?
Yeah, Jim Herman.
What did he win? I'm not even. I actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I believe he won the Puerto Rico one. Martin Traynor won the Dominican. And I believe Jim Herman maybe won the Puerto Rico one or something like that.
I truly don't remember that, but good for Jim Herman. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that is why there's an opportunity cost at the bottom too, because I think I know they're priced very close, and we'll go down incrementally, but I will say real quick, the difference between those guys and the next batch in the high sixes, I think, is immense. So buyer beware if you really go aggressive.
It sure is. Sure is. So let's go to those third guys in the lineup, starting with Paul Casey here. Paul Casey, Colin Morikawa, Matt Kuchar, Cam Champ, your favorite player. I know he's going to be in your lineup this week.
Yeah, that's
it. Todd and Joaquin Niemann. Easy to go to Niemann here. Excuse me. I've heard a lot of people wanting to go to Niemann in that third spot. Like you said, you can go Justin Thomas, DJ, and still have well over $7K to spend per player. So if you fall in love with some of these below 7K guys, Niemann could be that third guy. I think that means he's going to garner the most ownership behind Morikawa. But for me, Morikawa is that third guy. I was able to make a lineup with John Rahm, one other guy above, in Morikawa. I just think that when we've seen him play poorly, it's because he's missing fairways and gets a little erratic off the tee. I don't know if he'll miss a fairway all week. He definitely will. But it feels like this course he'll be able to really use his strength, which we know is his approaches, averaging well over 1 stroke gain down his approaches in his 10 rounds, or I'm sorry, not his 10 rounds, his 40 rounds last year. So I think that Morikawa is the top one for me. I don't know if I'll play Matt Kuchar all year. I think we may see the regression of Matt Kuchar coming off those 2 wins last year. I don't know that I'll play him above 8K again. I might make that stand, although he'll probably be the favorite next week, and I'll probably play him because that's just how it goes. But how about you? The one guy I didn't mention was Paul Casey. I don't know that I'm that interested in him this week.
Paul Casey's always interesting. A lot of these things are double-edged swords when we talk about non-cuts and things. I do think that some of Paul Casey's, benefit of playing him is that he's somewhat steady and he makes cuts and he gets it done. He finds the weekend. Everyone finds the weekend here, and Louis isn't here, so you really don't have to worry about that.
There's one other guy in the field we got to worry about.
We'll get to him in a minute. Yeah, we'll get to him. All right. So it's a situation where you're really looking for, you got to go nuts here. You need like 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8 in your, something like that. You can't be messing around. You're looking for pure upside. You mentioned how good Morikawa has been. It's a small sample, but obviously he's one of the best approach players on tour. He's fantastic. The short game, the putting, we're going to have to see. There's a lot of guys I have question marks with. You're going to have to embrace that. So I think for me, I'd rather get Reed, even Morikawa, certainly over guys like Casey and Kuchar this week.
Yeah, as you just said, you need. You can see in the lineup here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, and T11. But that T11, Jason Day had an eagle, a birdie streak, so he probably scored, more closer to guys. As you can see, he scored more points than Pat Gazier, who came in the top 10. So that's what you need. This lineup was duplicated. However, I forgot to bring up at the top. DK added 100K to the big GPP by moving it up to the $8 price level. So there's actually less entries in it, 20,000 less entries. So maybe a better chance to not get a dupe. As you can see here, I just wanted to bring up, and we're going to go over, after we talk about all the players, I'll go into this a little bit more in depth. But you can see with the ownership, this is very high. It came out to about 120% as total ownership for the $8. So again, I wouldn't matter too much about ownership. I wouldn't look at it for a week like this. Next week, it'll definitely matter. This week, I don't think it matters as much. It's just about obviously combining the right 6 guys.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's a fine line. If you have a lineup that adds straight to the cap with 0, you might be in trouble. Your equity is probably going to be shot. You got to do something. I don't think you have to fret. And, one of the many things we have behind the paywall, we have premium office hours where me and Jason, we hop in there, we answer your questions. And I always get a lot of questions on, ownership. And of course, it's important. We have, some of the best, if not the best in the business over at Awesemo. I love what they do, and I certainly use it in my process. But it's more about just having an idea so you know how much leverage you need. If a guy is 4% owned, you don't need 60%. That the old 15x is not necessary. But in a tournament like this, you also don't want to be like, I like this guy, I'm going to take 20% if he's 35% owned. So just being aware of where we fall within the spectrum.
Yep, absolutely. It's a great point. So Brendan Todd, let's talk about the low 8Ks because we talked about the higher ones. The low 8Ks, I'm into Cam Champ this week. If there's ever a tournament that I believe Cam Champ has an absolute advantage, it's a course where we know driving distance is going to matter. It's going to matter here. We saw him towards the end of the year, and I'll pull it up here on the screener. And the problem is we're not going to have all of his starts. But as you can see, it got much better towards the fall swing in terms of the strokes gain numbers. Granted, he was very good off the tee, but his irons, it didn't get worse than losing 0.59, where if you go even just back to the 3M, he was losing over 2 strokes per round. Go back into the middle of the season. I don't even have to. We know what it's going to look like. It's going to look real bad in here. So that says to me that it's coming around. It's turning up a little bit. We know that he's hot and cold with the putter. That's just Cam Champ style. He bursted out to a first-round lead here last year. It really sent DFS Twitter a buzz. I mean, people could not stand him already, and jumping off to the first-round lead in the first tournament of the year, it really sent people a buzz. However, so I am interested in him this week over Brendan Todd and Joaquin Niemann. I got a feeling you're probably not following me there.
No. I will say that you are certainly right that his abilities off the tee are an asset in this place and many other courses, but particularly this course. The problem is and credit to him, you know what? I probably said on the show last year, I hope he gets a good look around the scenery because he's never going to be here again. And he is back. Credit to him for that. I still think that when I just look at the rest of his game, the irons can come and go. The putter is not good. Scrambling, we'll see how windy it is. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. But, he's really going to have to bank on gaining 5-6 strokes off the tee. He's done that many times here, and that is impressive. But for me, I will bump down to Niemann. I will bump down to the Wolfman at 7,900. I just like his game. I think it's a little more well-rounded, and that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, do you believe that Wolf is just more consistent with his putter and his irons than Champ?
I do. I think it's just, even if you look at the strokes gained, obviously Cam Champ has, even against Wolf gets it out there, but it's not the same in terms of stroke gains off the tee. But when you look at the approach, the around the green and the putting, Wolf doesn't have glaring weaknesses there. It doesn't look like a strength like Morikawa, but at the same time, I don't feel nearly as concerned as when I look at Cam Champ's, spectrum.
Yeah, we look at the breadth of Wolf stats here on the right-hand side, and exactly what you said. I mean, he had a bad week at the Northern, don't get me wrong, but other than that, there was nothing glaring that, he lost a lot on. Rocket Mortgage, he putted terrible and was able to bounce back the next week and win. So definitely some resilience. I think you're going to get more consistency long term from Wolf over Champ. In a week like this, I'm taking Champ over Wolf only because Champ played here last year. That's really the only deciding factor for me this week. And I saw Champ a couple of weeks ago at the Australian Open. He played out there. He came in 27th against a really weak field, so it's not a great start. But his putter, again, was really cold. He actually struck the ball very well. In his interviews, he talked about how well he was striking it. So I'll take them more that he's played. And I guess even in a round one format and a round one showdown, maybe that's where I look to take advantage of that matchup a little bit more than the full week, so to speak. I also don't mind pairing those two up as number 3 and 4 in my lineup. I like having them both. I think they both fit the course pretty well. So this is what Corey Connors is. I'm interested in. I think he's a fine player. He's one of the best ball strikers on tour. We know that. His putting is horrendous. We also know that. Once you get below him, I'm taking a little breather on Ches Reavie and Kevin Kisner. I don't see playing them here. Ches Reavie just signed with a new iron, so I'm going to let that play out for a little bit. How about you? Do you find yourself going to Reavie or who's the other guy? Kisner. Sorry. Yep.
I'm not there really. I'll say this: Kisner, he is someone who can get really hot with the putter, and in a birdie fest that can be super useful. He has strong bent grass splits. I don't think that's really a spot. He's had a handful of appearances here, middling finishes, which again, I don't think is a death sentence.
Yep.
But I also think that when you can't take advantage off the tee, it's kind of, you're mitigating. He's not going to be super affected by these generous fairways. He hits a ton of fairways already because he doesn't bomb the ball. So I worry about him just a bit. It's Kevin Na's in the same boat. I will bump down to JT Poston and Dylan Fratelli.
So let's talk about Na for a second.
Okay.
If there was one golfer that you would rather play in a cut event versus a no cut event, would it be Kevin Na?
He's close to the top. Yeah. I mean, he's someone that, seems to come out of like nowhere sometimes. He gets it done here and there.
You mean winning tournaments by losing strokes tee to green?
I mean, yeah. When you gain 14 strokes putting in an event, you should win the tournament. So he did that at Shriners and he won the tournament. But again, until someone can turn their ball striking around, and maybe it's a new year, new start, there's just so many other guys that I would rather go to. Not going to be on Kevin Na for me.
So the reason I brought up, is would you rather play him in a cut versus a no cut, is he just has a propensity to withdraw from these tournaments that don't matter to him. He withdrew from this tournament last year after the day before going out in what do you call that? Rope swinging. Oh man, not rope swinging, but it is. You're on a rope and you're zip lining. There we go. Sorry, zip lining. There was a video of him zip lining on Wednesday and he withdraws from the tournament on Thursday. Like, I just get nervous about him in no cuts. I would rather play him in a cut event and have him withdraw because, I can still do okay. I can still cash if my 5 other guys do good. Here, if he withdraws like he did last year, you have no chance of cashing. Plus, Kevin Na hits fairways. He doesn't hit the ball a long way at all. I'm totally out. And he's a big fan of mine. I mean, I rode him huge in his win at the Byron Nelson earlier this year. He was a big proponent of my big week that week, but I can't play him here this week. I would so much rather play JT Poston. It's not even close.
Yeah, Poston is a guy that I was super excited to see break through. I've played him a lot. Does a lot of good things well. He's a good putter, good driver of the ball. Irons but again, he's starting to get more well-rounded. He won Wyndham pretty late in the year in August. So You've got him, and then my man, Dylan Fratelli, my favorite South African, who perfect course, non-cut. He can get crazy hot. I mean, this is someone, we've talked about this late in the year. He gained 7.5 strokes putting at his win at John Deere. A couple weeks later, he gained 11 strokes putting on the approach, at Sanderson Farms. He gained 5.2 strokes off the tee at the Open. This is a guy that can get it done in so many different ways. Yes, the game has leaks, of course, but at the same time, the upside is there when you can consistently get hot in different areas.
That's the key there. You said, right? When you can see, and I've got it up on the screen, when you can see every single statistic have a dark green like it's got there, take any color scheme you want to use. That's real good. And we don't see that with other guys. Now, does that mean that Dylan Fratelli is going to have a dark green and gain 2 strokes in every category this week? No, but that means that at 7,300, he's got a chance if he puts it all together to at least compete with Justin Thomas and the alike. So, like the call on Dylan Fratelli a lot. The next 3 guys I'm interested in. One of the guys I think is a really good play and is really just bursted on the scene is Sebastian Munoz. Let's talk about him for a second. 2 weeks, not 2 weeks ago, 2 starts ago, it looks like he didn't have a great one, but he had a really good fall. He put up a ton of DraftKings points. What do you make of Sebastian Munoz at 7,100?
As a guy, I mean, maybe the best swing season of anybody, honestly. Like Lanto, maybe, but yeah, 7th at Greenbrier, 1 Sanderson Farms, 3rd at RSM, and after Sanderson Farms, I was certainly someone that said, "Great win, I'm going to cool it on him." And he started to play a little bad, miscut at Shriners and OHL. The game was a little whack-a-mole, was losing off the approach, losing off the tee. But man, did he rebound at RSM? Really consistent performance, gained in all 4 categories. So I don't mind going here. This is a guy that's going to gain, more with the ball striking than the putting, but he has shown at times he can get hot, and he's actually been on a consistently good streak with his putter, a good Bermuda putter as well.
Yeah, as you can see here, he gained 4 straight, and then also I haven't put the RSM in there, but you mentioned he also played well there, so for some reason just didn't get through to Munoz here. Let's talk about the guy that's maybe here because of John Rahm. I don't know. I don't think so. Ryan Palmer played pretty good that week that they won the Zurich Classic as the team event. I know somebody took a shot at Ryan Palmer on Twitter about that, saying, you better thank John Rahm for the free trip to Hawaii. But regardless, had a good fall again. He put up over 80 DraftKings points in his 2 starts and out in the Asia Cup. He does put up DK points when he plays. So I had to play him this week in I didn't play him in my biggest lineups, but he's in my 3rd or 4th biggest lineup because we know he drives the ball well and we know he can score.
Yeah, Ryan, this is a area where you're going to hear me say I'm buying on a lot of guys.
Yep.
I plan to get over, and I plan to have a lot of, lineups funnel right to this range. And you've got guys like Fratelli and Palmer. They can get crazy out with the irons. He's not a great scrambler. He's not a great putter. The scrambling can be a little more mitigated here, especially if it's not, if there's like a major wind problem, I guess that could be a factor, but I don't anticipate a ton of that, even though they are calling for some gusts. The putting comes and goes. He is a Texas guy, which, this is not Texas, of course, but I'm gonna really mix and match in this area. If there is a dark horse winner, I think it comes from this exact range.
It's not going to be Keith Mitchell, though, is it?
No. He's not doing anything. Then again, his Florida swing, of course, is Bermuda, dangerously insane.
Let's take a look at that. So exactly what you said. So this is a Florida golf course when it comes to grass types. We know that he really struggles on bend. We know that he's a really bad putter to begin with. We know that's not his strong suit. But that Florida swing you mentioned, one at the Honda, that was more towards his ball striking, though, obviously getting 3 strokes per round. But he went on that stretch, gaining 3 in a row. As you can see, the rest of the year, did he do it? Did he gain 2 in a row the rest of the year? No. So obviously, we don't tend to look at splits that much. Ben and I think I think we line pretty well. We think it's more noise most often the time than not. However, there's definitely some outliers, and we can't ignore them. And Keith Mitchell happens to be, in my opinion, one of those outliers. We also know that he's top 25 in driving distance. So if there was a tournament or a course to play him, this would seem to suggest that it would be a good fit. So he's, for me, in those, I like Munoz, I like Palmer, I like Mitchell, and I like Fratelli, and I like Poston. Those 5 guys right there, along with my one play under 7K that I'm really focusing on, I think that's going to be a bulk of my lineups. Exactly like you said, I'm skipping the high 7 guys for the most part and finding ways to come down here and trying to get that same return. So, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just say Mitchell is someone, and you've really preached this to me. Showdowns, things like that, I may attack him there. We get a chance to see him. We'll see how he looks. It's a non-cut. I'm not going to be on Keith Mitchell a ton, but I'll also say this. I would be stunned if he doesn't have a really good stretch where he racks up a streak, where he has a fantastic 9. If you can try to hone in on and try to anticipate when that could be, maybe in an 18-hole setting like Showdown, you could take advantage. Over 72 holes, I don't know if he can sustain, even though this is a non-cut. So that's really where I'm at with a guy like that.
Yeah, I think it is a really good point. When we look at Mitchell, he could end up, say 18th or 21st for the tournament, which will hurt you in terms of positional points for a week long. But yeah, if you catch that one hot round where he's probably even going to come out with a 66, 7 under with a birdie streak and an eagle. Yeah, but he's probably going to have that 74 there as well and shoot one over, which will take him out of the tournament to win it. So I do like Keith Mitchell for showdowns. I think that's a great call. All right, so before we go on to the Fantasy Cruncher tutorial and how we can kind of use the group function here this week with only 34 golfers, also touch upon how I use it this week in a week with only 34 players to make sure that I'm capping in. Let's talk about below 7K. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's like 8 or 9 guys down here. Start right off at the top. I believe that this guy is going to be popular, and there's no reason for him not to be. As you can see, the strokes gain data here from the fall circuit on the second screen. It's been really good, and I'm talking about Adam Long. Guy won the Desert Classic against Hadwin and Phil Mickelson last year, coming down the stretch. So, what do you make about Adam Long? Do you think he's gonna is he gonna be popular for you, or are you gonna take a little bit of a stand?
So the problem with me is as you mentioned, Adam Long, I get why people are going to go to him. This is a guy that when he won, I thought, I didn't want to say a Michael Kim situation, but he missed 5 straight cuts after that. And I was like, we're never really going to see this guy do much. And boy, is he's gotten in contention a couple times. He was a runner-up over at OHL in the swing season. API hit a top 10. He's been pretty good. He's going to have some miscuts in there, of course. The problem I have is I'm not really going to leverage my portfolio of players to get a massive stake in him. So I have a feeling I come in around the field if he is the most popular play sub 7K.
Nate Lashley was listed as out when the rosters first came out, and that's because he withdrew from the Zozo Championship out there. Don't know why. I couldn't find anything about it. Maybe he got sick. Maybe he wanted to catch the direct flight back to wherever he lives. If anybody does know in either of the chats, feel free to let me know. I couldn't find anything. But do you think that out tag when it first came out, do you think people will just scroll by his name now thinking he's still out and he's the available play for you?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with Nasty Nate. He's a guy, he can get crazy hot. And again, you're getting leverage in a spot where honestly altogether, I don't see a ton of difference between these guys. Yeah, in a vacuum, maybe I would play Adam Long. I think Sun Kang is someone that's going to have some ownership associated with him, and he can get crazy hot. But, when we look at guys like you've got Lanto, Tyler Duncan, I'm not going to get to the bottom because I think there's a difference there. I don't mind it, but I will say for me, I'm going to try my hardest to get to Munoz and up when I'm ending these lineups.
Yeah, I understand. Lashley concerns me just because I don't know why the withdrawal happened. He is a statistical nut. He pops up kind of everywhere. But the guy I'm hitching my wagon to down here in this spot is Sun Kang. He had a great fall. He scored over 73 DraftKings points in 4 straight starts now. He gained more than 3 strokes, putting 6 times out of 19 starts this year that I'm following on the right-hand side of the screen. So we know we can get hot with the putter. We know that that's what you need to work here. And he's sneaky long off the tee. I mean, I think he's only 5'6" or 5'5". So, I mean, feeling like standing next to him, we'd tower over him. But the guy was 45th in driving distance last year. So kind of sneaky long for the stature that he has. If it was below 50 degrees, he'd be wearing some type of ski mask because that's what he does.
Real nice ski mask.
Of course, he's infamous for the spat with Joel Damon. When he basically cheated or whatever he did. But hey, you know what? I want him in my lineup because he does whatever it takes to win, right? That's the theory of Patrick Reed, at least.
We need all the help we can get.
So Sung Kang, this is more of a DraftKings points play that looking on the quick eye test, he had scored over 70 points in 4 or 5 events. All of the cuts that he made, he scored over that. And we know that we're going to need somebody that's going to score. And we've seen him a couple of times. The Houston Open round 1 sticks out 2 years ago where it was blustery all day. The average score was, I think, 3 over, and he blew away the field. He didn't end up winning the tournament, but he looks like he's a good win player, adverse conditions. So like Sun Kang this week. Graham McDowell, we skipped over him. Do you want to talk about him at all? There's not much for me to say. It's just not the right place.
No, I mean, Graham McDowell is another guy that, when I think most people think of him, it's in like the US Open in crazy conditions. He won Corrales, good for him. His big thing was he got into, the Open when it was up in his backyard, which was very cool at Portrush. But he just doesn't scream to me the type of play. And I'm going to complete opposite. I want a guy who's just like crazy scoring, boom or bust. Graham McDowell is just a very grinded out type player, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally agree. Now we move down to the last 4. Lanto Griffin and Tyler Duncan. 2 names that we talked about a little bit, but kind of came out of nowhere for those wins in the fall swing, which we did expect a couple of them. Lanto Griffin, though, before that had gone on a great streak, so maybe that one was a little more clear. We've seen the regression already happen, back-to-back missed cuts or back-to-back real bad finishes. I know he missed one of the cuts, and maybe he got succumbed to that 76th, I think, maybe the week before. So in any case, Tyler Duncan's coming right off his win, though, so we haven't seen him. Does that make you more apt to want to play Duncan? I know you said you're not going to many of these guys down here, but in your MME and your $8, are you using Duncan or Griffin at all?
I think I might use Duncan a little bit as my last man in. It's really just a dart throw. It's more about a lineup construction that's A, unique, or B, really is aggressive up top. And this is a guy that, Tyler Duncan is someone. What can you really say? He hadn't had a ton of success. He broke through at RSM. He's a pretty good ball striker. He's not a great short game player. Really doesn't have much pedigree. He pops up here and there. You're really just hoping for kind of, can he get into the fringe top 10? Can he score well? But honestly, I think if you play anyone down here, what you're really saying is, I think very strongly that I have a 1-2 combo up top that I need to get. If you think that JT is coming first and DJ is coming second, well, you got to work around that. And the way to do that is to leverage by paying down at the other spots and forcing yourself into a funnel position.
Another guy that is sneaky long here, and if you saw me going to look at it, just verifying my stats here, was Max Homa 49th in driving distance last year. The new Twitter phenom in the PGA world. He's roasting golf swings. I can't wait to send him yours from the DFS Open. That should
have to see mine.
Yeah, that should be
good to see my golf swing.
But he's played terrible. Now, granted, the last time we saw him play was at that, I think it was the Japan Open or something like that, where Morikawa, Woodlands, a decent American contingent was there. He was 5th after having a chance to win, but it was a rain-soaked event, and I believe our guy Shugo Imahara ended up winning that or something. Or one of the Jazzy Jazz or Shugo, I think, ended up winning that tournament. The guys that we talk about from that tour quite a bit. In any case, sorry to go off a tangent. Max Homa, any interest at all?
No, not really. It's just been so bad. Now he turned it around, like I said, playing against, but he has just not had anything. I'm just looking, since his win, and it was an impressive win. It was at Wells Fargo. He has a big goose egg in top 25s. This will be his best finish by default since then, because it's only 34 guys. So even if he comes in dead last, it will beat his 38th at the Northern Trust.
He's going to beat Jim Herman, though. He's going to beat Jim Herman this week.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy, he's obviously got some talent. There's no doubt about it. I'd say the strength of his game is off the tee, which is, it's not a bad thing, of course, around these parts. I'm just, I don't know why you're going there unless you're playing so many lineups where you're really mixing and matching to the point of mixing and matching basically everyone. He's one of the first guys I'm going to cut out.
Yeah, just looking at Homa stats, it looks like you're probably right.
It's just been bad.
Yeah, it's been bad. He's been really bad, as you can see. Off the tee in the last 12 weeks, he's gained more than 4 times. So it looks like that's the focus. Maybe putting too. He's a good putter. But the DraftKings points just haven't been there. Even his no-cut starts over in Asia just didn't look good. JB Holmes, who was the only golfer in the field to have a minimum of 2 starts and not come in the top 20 here. And this should be a course that is legitimately made for him. The only thing that he's good at is off the tee. He bombs the ball. But the last time we saw him, I believe he withdrew from the Zozo Championship, if I'm not mistaken. So I have no clue where JB Holmes is.
No, nobody. JB Holmes had, I think, probably the most shocking win. I mean, it was just out of nowhere. And then he continued to, since he won at Genesis, and that was early, that was in February, he has nothing of value. He has a 21st at Rocket Mortgage. And then his next best finish, and this is over basically almost a full calendar year, was 54th at the WGC, which is another non-cut. He beat like the creative players they send from the Sunshine Tour. That's basically it. That's bad. I'm not backing him whatsoever. Now, he has shown time and time again, you mentioned it, when JB Holmes gets going and off the tee, he's great, but he's also so live to just be completely useless. I don't think I need to be that aggressive.
Yeah, it's bad. Don't get me wrong. The approach is he hasn't gained in the last 4 tournaments, and I don't think the one where he withdrew from is gonna help that either. Martin Traynor has been so bad recently. I mean, you look at he lost 10 strokes almost with his putter in 2 rounds. I'm sorry, with his approaches in 2 rounds at the Houston. Before that at Shriners, he lost 7.6 in 2 rounds with his approaches. I mean, this guy better hope that he's got a bunch of 80-yard shots into the green, because this is not good. I mean, this is some ugly stats here for a winner. We're talking about a PGA Tour winner here.
Yeah, we are, and good for him. Has that exemption. Just no for me. And I will say real quick, over on Fantasy Draft, the pricing is pretty straightforward. Same really correlation. So whenever you build, you can kind of just cross over this week. Sometimes it's a little different. This week, it's basically in the same order.
Here's what I'll say. This is the one. I'm not going to say pitch. I'm not condoning playing Martin Traynor. However, if you're playing in a smaller entry lineup, or smaller entry contest, and it allows you to go get Xander Schauffele, Justin Thomas, and Colin Morikawa. Pick the 3 studs that you want to play, and a guy like Munoz and Fratelli, and you only have 6,000 left. Here's the thing. He's made 7 birdies in each of the cuts that he's missed the last 4 times. So if you double that at 14, throw in maybe 1 eagle because he bombs the ball. He ranked 25th in driving distance last year. Maybe he gets to 75 DraftKings points. That would help you in a smaller entry contest. As I've shown you a couple of times, it will not help you win the $8 this week. But could it help you get deep into the cash on, say, the $100 buy-in this week or the $200 single entry buy-in? Yes, it's super aggressive. Like I said, you're only hoping for him getting 70 points on DraftKings and hoping that the other 5 guys go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's honestly what you're hoping for with playing him. But I would rather play him than Jim Herman.
I'll agree with the second part of that. He hasn't made a cut since April.
He's going to make this cut, though.
It's honestly debatable. They may change the rule if he starts out that bad. Yeah, I'd rather play him than Jim Herman. That is all I'm going to say about Martin Traynor. I don't see any reason. I'm not going to be that aggressive up top, so this doesn't apply to me. I won't need to go down there. I also do want to say a couple things that we want to get to, and we're going to be doing a lot of cool things this year. Chat, right off the bat, you guys are the best. We really do appreciate you being here, hanging out with us to get the season started. If you can hit the like button, it really does help the show, helps keep the lights on and everything. But we want to do some fun stuff. And I know, Jason, this is your doing. We've talked a lot about marketing stuff. We have a really cool New Year's thing going on centered around golf, if you want to talk about it for a second.
Yeah, so we got a few. The first one is anytime until January 12th, so the next 12 days, you can join us for the week for just $1, which is $1.
$1.
$1. And I know that we had talked about running a good promotion to actually join us for the entire year for free. We're going to be running a promotion for that for coming up. I don't know if we've put it out yet, so I won't announce it yet on Twitter before I sign on the show. It hadn't come quite out, but we will be running one. Again, you'll be able to win a free sub. So if you are in the YouTube chat, haven't quite joined us on the Osmo.com Plus side, a good opportunity will be coming up. Plus, if you haven't seen what we got on the Osmo Plus side, I mean, joining for $1, you can't really beat it, and you get everything that we have. So be able to do that for the Sony Open next week, which is 120 players, a full cut, full ownership. We have a full slate. So this is really kind of an exhibition, so to speak.
Yep.
But I will go quickly as we're coming up. We were a little late on the air, so we'll go just another 5 minutes. We got a lot of questions this week about using randomness and using uniqueness when building out your lineups this week and what you want to do. So first and foremost, if you're not familiar with the Fantasy Cruncher tool and how I got to it, this is the main screen. When you pull it up, you just click advanced options. Here's classic randomness and normal distribution randomness. I always use the normal distribution since they came out with it. If you want to know the difference between the two, just go click here. But normal distribution, it results in better representation of the expected outcomes. It's just the one that you want to use. So got a big question. What do you want to use this week? Well, for me, that all depends on your group setting. So in this field, I use 100%. The reason I use 100% is because I use the group function a lot. What I do with the group function is I go in and say, okay, I want to have Justin Thomas and John Rahm. I want to have at least one of these guys in every single lineup that I'm about to make. Okay, so we can start with that. Now, what I'll also do is I'll go and I'll say, okay, I want to have Kang, Munoz, and Fratelli, right? I want to have at least 2 of these guys in a lineup. So now I'm guaranteed to have Rahm, JT paired with at least 2 of these guys. Now I want Fantasy Cruncher to do its work. I want Fantasy Cruncher to give me as many variables with those 5 guys in it. So that's what I'll use. I don't even care really about the uniqueness of the player. We've got a couple of unique number of players per lineup. I don't really care about that because the 100% randomness basically covers that. It's going to give me plenty of variety in the lineups that it generates. The last thing that I will say, where is it here? I'm sorry, right in front of me. The min, max, and salary. Okay. If you're playing in the $8 this week, Ben and I have talked a lot about if you use all 50,000 of your salary, you have a much more likelihood to be duplicated.
Definitely.
Does that mean you're not going to win the $44 or something of a higher dollar buy-in? No, you've got a great chance to have a non-duplicated lineup in those. Last year, none of the other contest big GPPs were duplicated. So as you go up in price dollar, I wouldn't worry too much about that. However, if you want to make sure that you're not duplicated, it's very simple. You just put the minimum salary. I always do 49,000 because in this tournament, the top end versus the bottom end, there is a huge difference, and there's only 34 players. But Martin Trainer, who hasn't made a cut since April, versus John Rahm, obviously it's a big discrepancy in that many. So I'll do 49,500. If I don't like what I'm getting there, I'll change it. Again, these are just the 3 settings that I would use for this specific tournament. I would go to my groups. I would really hone in on the groups here. And then I would change it. So what I do, just a couple of kind of pointers. I'll make 50 lineups like this. I'll just say use my projections. It's the Osmo projections loaded in, so that's good. This will come up, and this is just one other quick tip that I wanted to do. I'm just going to let it make its lineups. What I'll then go do is I'll go and I'll change my groups, or I'll go and I'll add my groups. And let's just say, all right, I need to log in. Sorry. We can just avoid that. I need to get Colin Morikawa or Matt Wolff, at least one of these. And now instead of doing a new crunch, which is going to give me a brand new set of lineups, obviously, I'm just going to press this go to add more teams so that I can keep my base crunch, and then I can keep all of the lineups that I've already made that I'm working off of. Again, that might seem insignificant. I started that later on in the season, and it tremendously helped me get to where I was attempting to get to. So big things here. I use 100% randomness. Some people don't. For this tournament, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to hit my core, and I'm looking for Fantasy Cruncher to just give me the most random lineups of the last 2 or 3 guys in my lineup every time. So I hope that was pretty clear. Did I confuse you, Ben? Because if I didn't confuse you, I think I might have.
No. I mean, I think what I always stress, no matter how you build, is try to approach each slate differently. Don't have like, all right, these are my rules, and I'm just going to do this every time and hope it works. Because every golf tournament is different, every situation is different. Understand what you're doing. That's step one. And we have really good tutorials. If you're new to Fantasy Cruncher, if you're new just to anything, DFS in general, you want to get the understanding before you do anything crazy. Because it's, all that stuff, you still control it. Like it'll put out what it spits out what you put in. So just keep that in mind. This is a very different week. And that's really where we're going. I do want to say real quick, the promo code is PGA 2020, all one word. It's $1. Come on, people. We want you in Slack. Sign up, see what we got. We hope you get going right off the bat with this in the Sony Open, and then you can move on to bigger and better things. There is one other promo that I want to say from the site. It is New Year, all one word, 20% off an Awesemo Plus Platinum Yearly Pass. So that's like $200 off. That's going to be running this first week in January. So we'd love to get you in the door for golf if you want to spend $1. If you want everything, come on in. New Year, 20% off. So a great deal. We have a ton of things going on the site. And again, we're just really excited to do some things and chat. You guys have been so awesome. So we're happy to provide what I think is a really cool deal for $1. But anything else, man, we did pretty good.
Yeah, we did good. Did we miss anything from chat? I mean, I know it was pretty active and then it shut down on me. Did we miss any questions from it or?
No, I think we're pretty good. As always, like I said, everyone in there, great discussions. We love it. If there's questions, you always hit us up. Find us in Slack. We're going to have some time before lock tomorrow. So like I've built a little bit, but to be honest, I still want to, smooth and hone in on I have the broad strokes. But yeah, I'm going to go sweat the Baylor Georgia game. Sugar Bowl is on. Any final thoughts before we get out of here for the TOC?
Hawaii swing continues next week with the Sony Open. We've mentioned a couple times it's a full field. We kick right off, and we're basically nonstop through the end of the year. I mean, we get 2 weeks in a year from now, but until then, Ben and I are pretty much around every single week covering a tournament or giving some type of advice on it. So it's a lot of fun. We've got we had some great talks during the Slack chat for the President's Cup. Some great strategy there. So a really nice advantage for Awesemo Plus members there. Plus, of course, you have your Slack chats at 8:30 on Tuesdays where you answer every and any question up until then. So a lot of stuff going on. We're super excited for the year. Great spot to be in. PGA DFS is only growing every single week, it feels like, let alone every single year.
No doubt about it. It's just good things ahead. Great 2020. Like I said, I hope everyone had a happy new year, and I hope 2020 is just a good year for all of us. So we'll bounce on out of here. Jason, good to be back in business. We'll see everyone next week for the Sony Open, and good luck tomorrow with your lineups. Take care.